So my wife brought her books.
So yeah,
I just heard that.
oh, you did?
I gotta plug back in.
So,
Oh, Matt Ears needs to be muted on that.
Mm-hmm.
So this have now.
Oh, actually.
now that we so these guys can change.
Trying to volume. Volume.
I'm so tired.
Yeah, get muted for that one. There we go. There's two sound devices on those. So you can mute one. So you can mute one and it won't matter. It'll still play to the other device.
So now I'm not getting his screen share. You shared your screen, right?
Yeah, I'm not doing it again.
That might go for things to the three. I don't want to get so much.
Mine did, but I was.
You have
There, that's the.
Well, I had a plug.
You just have to press that once. Fun one.
Okay.
So it won't be his, he should be good, you can leave it plugged in. Now we might have to.
All right, that good?
We'll get once.
your granddaughter who's music. Years. And she's like.
The way.
And is she gonna go?
I don't know. I wasn't very surprised if she did. I don't know that she's musical, she has to. But she's not. Gifted soul.
Yeah, it's still not showing history.
It's totally,
Yeah,
yeah, maybe just you share the screen.
Yes.
Because he's.
Was that? Was that Kingdom?
No, music.
He has to go reshare his screen since we unplugged it.
Now you have to share your screen again.
I did.
When you unplug it,
It's Nelson's Grove, isn't it?
Oh, I'm not broadcasting it.
Where is it?
Yes, Nelson's Grove.
Yeah. My niece, who graduated from the program, she's been working for Warner for the last 4 years. The project was great.
Hold on.
She's very, she won, she won awards for the project.
That work now?
it's not showing as you're broadcasting. Go back to the Zoom room
Get into that program.
and then click on, yeah, that presentation itself.
It's crazy.
Well, that's not mine.
That one's not yours? I mean, all of those are yours.
Yeah,
Money at really.
It's sharing now.
but okay, I'll try this again.
Yeah, you can share the program or you can share the screen.
If I want to share the presentation, should be this. I want to share.
Yeah,
The ones that like
you can even just do your screen.
two.
Yeah.
That's a very good contract. It's the greatest.
I don't think it's trying to share it when we're clicking on it. Oh, there it goes, there it goes.
Yep, now, okay, we got it.
Now,
You guys are so that she. Just.
If the Zoom shows that, you know, I would just double check that it crashed over.
yeah, as long as Zoom does first, Zoom's master. So,
Yeah, you check the audio, we're good on audio.
So if you've got.
we've been echoing.
Okay.
Yeah. Turn myself up right now.
Okay. We are.
Okay, I think we're finally ready. Yeah.
We're ready. Okay, let's go. Oh, I am. I'm chairman now. So, all right, we could start, but before we start, I just want to discuss a couple of things about switching roles in the planning commission. I approached Madeline and Jason about switching between us, which can be the chair and I can be the co-chair. That's mainly because of my crazy work schedule that just popped up. And what do you think about it?
I'm fine with it.
Jason's fine with it, and if everybody else is okay with it, then I would say, go ahead and start, chair.
Do you need to have a vote on that or is that?
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe a formal.
Yeah, we're doing it.
That would be great. Okay.
I'm looking at it, coming in.
And most likely I'll be doing a lot more of this stuff on Zoom instead of in person, instead of from traveling. Just until you guys say just go on and then you can say.
So when you over there.
Take that.
That's up to the chair, everybody.
It's silly, just.
As long as it'll be close to the podium if there's comments.
Cool, that would be best. Just.
Okay. Motion accepted.
And by the way, a Zoom counts as attending the meeting, everybody already knows that, so. I didn't know that, but that's okay. No, so if you're ever gone, you can call in, you still count as an attendance.
Television stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it's what time is it? She get
Where's she
there?
at?
10 o'clock, England.
Yeah. To her mums, just to be happy.
Her mum.
Yeah.
That almost feels like it today.
It does.
First, she said her mom lives in a very remote place next to that, a lot of activity out there.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay, agenda review. Item 3.1, Orem City Center. This is for site plan approval, approving the Orem City Center project, which will be located at 56 North State Street in the C2 zone. We may need to get a new address, right, Ryan? We'll see.
Changing it.
Okay, address stays the same. Yeah,
We are keeping it because of the.
history. Yeah. Good to know. Okay,
Post office.
some of it you may already know, but I'll cover it anyways. This is the site area which we're sitting within that red box. Okay, we have a demo plan that's available for review. Basically, we'll be removing, as you've probably already seen, much of the trees. There'll be construction access temporarily, staging area, and then the existing parking lot on the south side will be part of the construction area, as well as some of the trees in the north portion. Although there's been a great effort to save as many as we could, and I think Ryan's been to many meetings about that.
Yes.
Here's the site plan. The building itself, sorry, my notes are on my phone, sorry, is will be 4 stories in height, 48 feet, 4-foot parapet, total roof line of 52 feet.
Just to clarify, the 1 floor is a basement underneath the west.
I thought it looked like 3 of us.
So 3 above grade.
That's what I did.
The building will be built with, like I said, in the south parking lot and in the area on the corner, mostly fronting Center Street, some on State, and keeping the address. Just a better, more cleaner view of that same site plan. In the long term, the existing building that we're sitting in will be demoed after the completion. That from the existing entrance to this breezeway right here. And we'll then reconstruct that with new landscaping. And we are working on a water-wise landscaping plan for that. There's landscape.
If I can jump in.
Mhm.
As of last night's city council meeting, there was a presentation on Gold Star Monument, which is for survivors of those that have been killed in active duty. And under the direction of the council, we're going to be looking at implementing that into the courtyard landscaping plan. So there will be some minor modifications based on how that plays out. But because they'll be pretty insignificant, so we won't bring it back, but just see what about.
What's the expected completion date? Say,
Well, we're hoping to move in a year from October,
that quickly?
and then it would take probably, I don't know how many months to demolish this, build a parking lot and build a plastic pad. Probably 3 months after that. Weather is already holding us up, so we'll see how that goes out.
That's really fast, 18 months. Isn't it?
Yeah, pretty good. It's a pretty good pace, but it's attainable to do a building in that time.
Or it's how much of the holdup is the one you're so
It's just money math out there, so it's cut back on tree removal and utility. Right now, we're doing utility relocation with city crews, and so it's planning out.
Parking for the facility will be built where you're seeing this construction traffic zone. Total parking will be required of 833, and that we will at the end, that's for the entire city center campus. And we'll finish the project with 889 proposed parking stalls. Elevations of the building, the architecture will consist of masonry brick. It's dark and then light toned, blend of 3 different colors. And this meets the material requirements outlined in city code for the State Street corridor. This is the current view. Our recommendation is that it meet our review of this plan is that it meets city code, and we recommend your approval.
So, I have a couple questions. What will, as you're turning off, Center Street heading up State Street, right? How close will that building be to the corner? What impact might it have on safety?
Bearings.
What's the distance from?
This distance here,
On the very far, not there, at the other end, right by.
Oh.
yeah.
So I got that on that.
Okay.
Zoom into it. So the corner of the building at the south point was 38.4 feet in the back of the sidewalk. So it's a little deceiving on paper. I find things always look much better. Real life, not paper, but it's a pretty significant setback. So you're 46 feet and curve.
Is the state worried about that at all in terms of traffic or?
No, it is you're where they put a lot of buildings on the State Street, they're right in the sidewalk, but the state right of way ends at the back of the wall. And they don't have any concerns.
Hey, Ryan, I had a phone call the other day. Someone said, why are you doing this? That might be a good thing to
Oh, yeah,
share
that's
with
a
the
good-
planning commission. Why? I mean,
Yeah.
this went back to bad building, you know, what?
Yeah.
How many square feet are we tearing down, and how many new are being built? That's part of that answer.
I think if I remember correctly, we are around 70,000 square feet. Actually, I've got it right here. So the new building is. Have a second here. I'll find out this first before I go through the other items. But to Councilman Peterson's point, we did a lot of evaluation on this, and one of the thoughts was tear down the building we're in and build a new one. It was around about a $2 million cost to do that. Because we have to rent space somewhere else, relocate all of our staff. And our server room is located in this building that runs the IT infrastructure for the entire city. Including public works, library, fitness center, everything. Server pools. So we actually have to build a new server room in the new building, connect the city up, and then detach this building. So that was one of the real big challenges was doing that. But it came to around $2 million in savings to do it this way. And I'll find the square footage question for you.
Okay.
Can I ask another
Well,
question?
We're back to the recommendation. Yes.
And it's more of a curiosity. One of my friends used to be on the C team of Clayton Construction. Not anymore, so. Curious about who the city looked at in terms of constructors and how it could bid and all that.
Yes, we did a construction RFP. The 2 finalists were Big D Construction and Layton Construction. They came in and presented. Big D built our fitness center, and we had a wonderful experience with them. Both firms would have done a phenomenal job, but Layton specialty was city halls, and they had experience with DIAS and the council chambers and those systems, and kind of guiding us down the path of what we may or may not have known we wanted. And they just finished up with the city hall. And that was part of it, but what it really came down to was supply chain and lead time on materials. And we asked the 2 contractors Layton's answer was much more reassuring. With supply chain, getting things ordered ahead of time. Big D would have done a great job, but their answer was not as good. And so it came down to splitting hairs, to be quite honest. But both of them really done wonderful job.
Thank you both for it.
And just so you're aware, it's called a CMGC process. So we actually brought on the contractor at the same time with architects designing it, and we all work together and we meet every week and do it as a team. So the contractors are telling us, no, don't do that, it's gonna cost more. And the architect is talking to them in meetings outside of us meeting with them, and they work together. That's working cost savings, schedule, to Councilman Peterson's point, 18-month schedule is because of this process. CMGC. Oh, yeah, thank you. Construction management general contractor is what that's true.
So, you know, with the cost of it, it was, I mean, escalated in the last 20 years. Now with the decline in building, going on, one wonders if the cost of material increase as well.
And we have seen it from a lot of life, and that's some great thing. And the other thing we've done on this project, that we actually did on the fitness center as well, is selected our mechanical contractor, our electrician, and our structural steel contractor before the plans were done. So Layton did interviews, pricing, and we brought them on board, and they've been part of the design meetings as well. So it's a real collaborative effort.
They're both are very experienced, solid outfits.
So Ryan, then my last comment, I don't want to keep interrupting, but thing that caught my attention was like a command center, problems with flooding in the basement, some of those things. I don't know if that's ever been to the planning commission. I'm just, I mean, about why would you, I mean, I hear about saving a couple $1 million, but you're spending a whole bunch to save 2 million. Anyway, I'd like maybe just share some with, I mean, those things got my attention, like a command center and a.
Oh, okay, so the new building will have an emergency operations center in it. And our fire department's moving over from public safety into it as well, which frees up that ability to expand. Is that kind of where?
Yeah, and just if there was an earthquake, where,
Yes, okay.
where does the city function from currently? What would happen with the new building?
Yeah, so this building is seismically unsound, it's unreinforced masonry construction.
Was it built by Alpine?
In the same 1990s.
Yeah, they tried to sell it.
The new building is built to a what's called a risk category 3 and a risk category 4. So library hall, fitness center, those are built to a risk category 2. So risk category 4 is the strongest structural standard you can build to for seismic or earthquakes. So the west portion of this building along State Street is risk category 4 because the emergency operations center is in there. The other wing is category 3. The only real difference between 3 and 4 is that there's extra strapping in the ceilings to make sure the light fixtures don't fall out if there's an earthquake. Same with your ductwork, your HVAC systems. The expectation is in the larger earthquake that portion of the building is going to remain in operations. The other side will as well, but you may have some cosmetic things to fix and get back together. And so they have to. Structural design is very robust on this building. And that's what they're working on right now, that may lead us to a little bit of a dig to it as well. Because they're working to some directions. Does that cover everything?
Yeah, that I thought was impressive to me, that there's got to be a place in Orem if we have a major earthquake where the city can function from, where the building's standing.
Yes, we'll have a generator, backup fuel, so the EOC will operate and the city's operations will run out of the emergency operations center. So the EOC. We do have one now at Public Works, it's just not built to the same level as this.
I'm more nervous about flooding than earthquakes for some reason, just. It's a general.
We're up on that. Yeah, right. Flood exploring seems pretty.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We're in Provo, would be in trouble. River bottoms would be.
Okay, how about we do this? Wayne Gray, our project manager, will be here and he can answer that sort of first question. This is gonna have on top of this. I won't go there.
I'm a favorite.
It is bigger, it's about 6,000 square foot. square feet bigger, like office.
The whole
then we have
additional
a
floor and a
basement.
half, right?
What's that?
It's like a floor and a half bigger, right?
Actually, no, it's not that much bigger. It's,
A better use of space.
it's a much better use of space and not wasted odd rounded walls and.
I'd like about 20,000 square feet. That's not much.
I'll find out.
20,000?
I'll find out. That's including an unfinished basement on West Wing of that. We'd already gone out. If our contractor architect.
So is it built such that the city grows, you have more needs, you have?
There's about 5,000 or 6,000 square feet of unfinished space in the building that will remain shelved. We did the same thing on our fitness center as well. And we have a basement we never want to put people in, but worst case. Doesn't have windows. We'll just put it down there.
So I'll give you a big TV like this and I can put a fake window up.
There you go.
Still doesn't work.
Like a back in the future window.
Yep,
Yeah.
Excited?
all right. The item 3.2, 800 North and State Street. This is a rezone request. It will amend our zoning map by changing the zone of approximately almost 5 acres, 4.86, from the C3 zone to the C2 zone. Now, the property is actually, the rezone request is what we see in red. The property under consideration that the developers in control of is all these vacant parcels. Okay. You see that the zone is split between C2 and C3. So especially with the diagonal of that property line, sort of makes site planning difficult for uses and where we put things.
What's the difference?
So C3 allows a slightly different set of land use mix. I'd have to double check on the height. I can look that up.
It is, it's like 35 or 48. I think is the
Okay.
difference. So you go up another 13 feet and then they can get like, they don't have a 10-foot setback in the C2 instead of 30 foot. So they can get right on top of the residential, right?
Yep.
Next to the curve of the C2 zone and go up 48 feet. Instead of the 35 that was according to the ordinance.
Yeah,
The big difference is C2 zone is kind of a core commercial zone. Almost every commercial use is allowed in C2. Whereas in C3, only certain commercial uses are allowed. A lot fewer uses are allowed in C2 versus C2.
yeah, I think what you'd see next door to the west of this is more indicative of what a C3 zone would produce.
That's, yeah, I'm trying to say it's homes.
Yeah.
That's fundamentally what the difference is.
The C2, yeah, in this scenario, we do have a townhome community to the north of it. This, I don't know if it's in the report, but there was some neighborhood feedback requesting them to look at adjusting the location of some of the proposed uses. They also worked with staff and look at some different design alternatives, and they did not incorporate all our suggestions, but they have incorporated some of those, including moving some of the quieter uses closer to the residential portion. At least proposed and planned uses. That looks like this. This is the concept plan for the rezone. There would be 3 pads out front. One, I believe, is a car wash. There's a sort of a drink variation shop. And I believe another fast food establishment. That is their intent to develop that portion as a phase 1, and then a hotel and additional retail space in the west side of the property as a phase 2 development.
So why,
Go back there. You asked me on the line.
why rezone the whole property as opposed to just moving the line where the C2 hits?
That is an option. That is not what they, yeah.
Restricted C3 and residential.
I'm sorry.
What they're putting in the C2 area would also be allowed in the C3, correct?
Correct.
So it doesn't even matter the line.
That may not necessarily be the case.
Yeah, I'd have to do a detailed review of the land use.
Yeah. And I,
Differences. Yeah.
I just, in my reading, it didn't seem like there would be any conflict.
I think because C2 allows so many more uses, it's very
Right.
possible that there would
Well, this is just a watery plan, so the minute you rezone it, they could all of a sudden, that hotel gets taller and right on top. And they put in the plan because we rezoned the property. Because there are no building plans, it's just a proposal, and that could change the minute we say, yep, we're zoned.
Because this is not, it's not a PD zone, this is a rezone to C2.
So the C2 zone, while the setback from a residential property can be as small as 10 feet, they can't go higher than 35 feet and be closer to 35 feet. They have to be at least the height of the building away from the residential zone. So like if they want to have a 20-foot building, they have to be 20 foot.
Which they probably could do that because the residential zone isn't north of them, that's a PD zone.
I think.
But we would
A little to the,
well, we would consider that a residential zone because the uses allowed in that zone are residential.
right, but I just,
Good.
technically, it's not a residential zone, it's a PD. zone.
There's
That's
different,
not how we interpret it, though.
classifications, there's different classifications of PD zones. We have PD more commercial,
Yeah.
PD residential, PD mixed use where they have a mix. And that's what we probably justify the eventual, they come through for the rezone, that's up for, your review today. They would still also have to conform closely to the concept plan as part of that rezone. And then the eventual site plan that they have to apply for will also come before you. And they also have to then strictly meet all these setback requirements that we're describing to you. In addition to all the other transportation is a major concern for this of access through the property as well. So I think those are some things to consider now. Overall as part of the rezone, but then also it'll be another review of this when they come through with a more finalized site plan that's going to be very, very nitty gritty reviewed. So
Yeah, it'll be a lot harder to
Yeah.
refute what we need if the zone is changed.
Yeah,
That's the thing, this is a multi-step process for most developers. Get the first step done, after that, we say, well, you guys already approved it, that's what's approved in there, let's do the next one. We'll happen quite a few times.
And there are a
I
few,
say we just move the C3 line where they need it.
I agree.
Let's take C3 and we're good. And then they accomplish everything, and when they come back, we can adhere to C3 like they're trying to say they're doing now. And then they get the C2 on the front stage.
You need C3 along state, or C2.
Yeah.
And that's a horrible spot, too. I mean, on the way here, traffic backs up all the way into that PD zone, all the.
If we,
Well, and that's what one of my questions is that all of that C2 is going to try and fill out on State Street, which is always backed up, always, even driving down today at 3 o'clock. There were cars all the way from State Street back past the condominiums, or apartments. And what is the influence either going to be along State Street for any of the properties? I don't care what they're building along there. Are they planning to have it come back out through Fort West?
Some of it, yes, they do have it. You
Yeah.
can see on their picture, they do have it.
So-
accessed into Fort West.
yeah,
But if you've got development on.
so it comes out
State Street, it's
here from the down. And lands up here with this access.
yeah, this is. Those are leading one to another, that's all.
Yeah,
Now, the internal access from east to west is pretty much set in stone. They have some requirements that we need for lining that access up with the other driveway accesses and distance on that north side from, correct me if I'm wrong. This one needs to be on the north, correct? Because of the left turn,
Yeah, the one that they show right there.
because we're trying to align with the
Yeah,
across the street.
So question, if we
There are
do,
some constraints.
if we believe that the C3 and C2 boundaries need to be adjusted, do we just deny this and have them come back, or can we actually approve something that
I
they
think-
have requested?
Yeah, if you deny it, then the application's dead and they'll have to reapply, repay fees. And ultimately, I think that's a council decision.
You actually have, we pay the fee those risks we take for applying for this anyway. We're not like, I won't be guilty about that. I've paid too many fees that nothing happened with it. So.
The alternative is the,
Don't worry about that.
Yeah, I'm not, I just wanted to mention. Risk.
yeah, so ultimately the council will be responsible to approve or deny it. This is a recommendation. However, if they did deny it, again, they'd have to reapply, start over from the beginning. An alternative is to give them feedback and request a continuance and see if they'll bring back an alternative proposal. And that would not start the clock over.
Steve, did you?
You can recommend, for example, you can recommend the proposal with modifications if you want to.
Sure.
So basically, you essentially be saying, we recommend, say you don't like this, you recommend denial of this, but we recommend approval if the line will move to this location. In fact, that's what you're thinking. I think that would be the most helpful to city council to know where you think the line ought to be.
Thanks.
Okay,
Well, I would wonder, it may not be necessary either, right? Because what they put there may not require.
Okay, can you go back to that plan? What, the building on the furthest northwest corner, is that where the hotel is with?
No, or, yeah.
yes, this would be a proposed hotel. And then a proposed retail site.
What's that pad in the middle? We have the 3 retail sites in state, you have that.
There's a pond
That's a
right there in
detention
the-
pond.
It's a detention basin.
Yeah, and I keep on forgetting my mouse doesn't show up there. Sorry about
Can
that.
you go back to the previous, one that showed on the right there.
This one?
No, that one right there. So just so you know, one of the things that we typically prefer to do is have zoning boundaries aligned with property lines. So, obviously, if you're talking about moving that somewhere, that kind of cuts through those boundary lines, we can do that. There's nothing that says you can't. But it's just a preference, where you can align those and we prefer to do
It's
that.
just same developer.
And
What's that?
Same developer. That doesn't.
yeah, one of the, just in response to that, we're not exactly sure how future property lines are going to be developed here. We have current property lines, which are the blue lines. But if we measure things out, that doesn't necessarily correspond to how they'll develop the site. So, whether they develop it as far as individual parcels, that will be under individual ownership, or if it'll be a larger development with a pad, sort of a PD type plat where the people just own the pad.
Cut some of it off and some.
Currently, they are.
And that's possibly.
Amending the plats as well to break off these, so, yeah, so it came through here for the first time, the plat amendment came through here last week, so we're gonna done.
So if you were, oh, go ahead.
Doing that at least to some level.
So if you were inclined to make a recommendation that only a portion of this is rezoned, you could add language to say corresponding to their proposed property lines or something like that. Is that fair, Steve?
I mean, yeah, in fact, I'm almost wondering if we want to wait and see how they want to subdivide it first before you decide what the zone.
Yeah, which may warrant a
They have an idea how they want. to-
Yeah, they may, but they haven't presented that yet, at least to the planning commission, I don't know. I mean, that's probably something good to ask. To this meeting, so.
Yeah, they may didn't say that in the meeting.
Yeah, lower slide.
Is that actually big, trying to acquire some. Yeah, let's. With the cloud there on the eastern side. We're asking them to provide some sort of,
Okay, I was just talking, I wasn't talking.
the development.
Oh, so you could drive through and get in
Yeah.
and out.
Yeah, so when
Okay.
this one came through, we actually had them provide that here. That's why that access is there. So these guys can go ahead and have cross the access. And to a point that Matt made, I've been in contact with these guys quite a bit saying, look, we have to have access to 400 West. That access point's gonna be here where it lines up. And then on this side, likely there's gonna be a median that comes through. So the only full access that they would have is gonna be here. So, and in talking to them and to what Kayla said, there is a plat amendment. They're looking to relocate this boundary line just to here, and they want to parcel off this piece here, because this car wash owner is ready to come in and they want to close and start in May. So they have an idea of what this is gonna be, and that's what's in our current DRC packet. I don't know if the use here for the car wash can go into C3, it seemed like. So that's part of the reason why they want to move it, because these types of uses can't be in the C3, so I know at a minimum would like to get it to there. And to your guys' point, that could be something that you guys recommend, is they're just trying to get it so that these auto type uses can be here without straddling that zone.
So, but we like, several meetings ago, we went through the whole car wash thing and not having car washes done out on State Street. How on earth can they put in a car wash there and not have it done on State Street if nothing else built?
We just had one
We
before.
like literally just did that, like 2 meetings
Yeah,
ago.
so the entry to the car wash on this is on the west side.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think their idea is you would flow through the parking lot.
You're gonna
Which
keep
really just off that owner on the northeast. Because nobody can go to their business because they're busy.
One where you try and go and just swig and you literally can't because you
Yeah.
block off every other thing in the end. So I guess, I know that's a little stuffy on what we're doing for rezoning, but there's some real issues with this piece of property. It's just not acceptable.
Can I ask maybe a stupid question? This concept plan doesn't tie into anything, is that correct? This is rezoning. Correct. This is just a hypothetical.
That's one of our, right, is if we rezone it to all being C2, what are they suddenly gonna be like, no, now we want to.
They can do anything, they can still do anything that's allowed. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not tying into a particular concept plan. And if I remember correctly, we don't allow PDs on State Street.
We do for commercial PDs, the residential.
I knew there was something.
So that's one option they could come back with is a commercial PD zone here
But they just be tight, they don't wanna have.
and.
They don't want, they only have time.
Their story. That is his star, but they can make that. You ask that.
We can talk to them. But I think the ideas that we take to discuss in the next meeting. We do need to switch to 3.3 just
Okay,
in the last couple of minutes here.
recommendation from the staff is the for a positive recommendation on that. You've already discussed that. All right, item 3.3, text amendment. This is amends appendix A of the Orem City Code, which is our land use table, which describes what land uses are allowed in what zones. By enacting standard land use code 6266. So every land use has a different number. And we're calling the pediatric palliative care facility. And then also enacting a new ordinance in chapter 22 called pediatric palliative care facility. Just here, grab my staff report, sorry about that. Oops. Closed on me. Okay. So there's this existing building in located at 370 West. Oh. Let's see, address. Thank you. Yep, 500 North. Yeah, it's been difficult to find a new user for that, and there's been all sorts of different things proposed. This user is again wanting to do palliative care facility for pediatrics. This is where children would receive, oh gosh, remind me, Ryan.
Steve has been working with.
Oh, remind
So
Ryan.
basically
Steve.
what it is, there's a lady who
Oh, yes.
operates an enterprise, I guess, called Brady's Place. What she does is right now, she currently goes into people's homes, and these are, you're talking about children who have some sort of a medical condition that requires specialized medical care, not enough that be institutionalized or anything, they have to have specialized medical care in the home. She goes into their houses and either helps to teach the parents how to take care of them, either, I don't know all the particulars, or she'll also do what they call respite care, where they want to take a break for 2 days. She's got the skills necessary to provide the needed medical care for the kids so that the parents can leave and not have to worry about it.
Yes.
So what she's proposing to do is in this facility, and this was previously approved as an assisted living facility for the elderly. So and it was approved for 26 residents back in, I think, 1982. So what she's proposing is she'd have the kids basically come and stay in this facility for typically a period between 7 and 30 days. There'd be several kinds of services offered. One would be the respite care, which again is probably going to be in the range of 7 days while the parents can go on vacation, whatever. Another aspect might be where, you know, a child might be coming out of the hospital after a procedure or something like that. They come to this facility, they help teach the parents on how to take care of the child's needs medically, do things like that. The last element would be kind of the hospice, where a child is expected to pass away, you know, relatively soon. They can come to this facility, again, kind of have the skilled nursing type of care that they need to, and allow the family also to be there at the same time while the child has their last days there. So that's essentially what they're proposing to do. There's kind of an ancillary use. They're hoping to have maybe some therapists that are there as well, who would obviously help the children who are residing there during this time, and also to provide some limited outpatient. So some of these kids who are in home, not staying at this facility, that they can come there for an hour to get some therapy. I think she specifically would like to have some kind of like a hydrotherapy for, so she would like to be able to offer that to people, not just the kids who are staying there, but other kids who come there and use those services. So that's kind of in a nutshell what she's.
And the only other thing in the staff report says that according to the applicant, families and children who need the services, these services have to leave Utah County to receive this care. So this would be a first of its type in the valley. This is the actual table, and it's proposed to be a conditional use within the R 7.5 zone. So we are proposing it be limited to just the zone that this facility is located in, nowhere else.
So if I could jump in there again, Matt, the reason why we have an asterisk there is it wouldn't be permitted everywhere in the R 7.5 zone. You probably know, it would only be allowed where the property had previously been approved for a residential healthcare facility for the elderly. So that is, it's not the typical house that, you know, it was built as a different type of facility for this kind of a care. And so if they wanted to convert that specific type of use to this, they could, but not just any old residence.
So they're just bring up wherever.
Right, and so it's really very limited in where these could go.
And that's what this text ordinance basically
Yeah.
accomplishes, correct? So this is the language. The site. And it is also recommended to forward a positive recommendation to the council. Any other questions on that? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope you're hungry because these fellows all have your hand.
Right here, so I can get. Yeah, I will. You may. We should be able to just,
So, I need to be up there. That's, I got that.
just set it right there. I mean, as long as the room's playing loud, that's the most you're gonna get. Should be able to put it close there. It's already in the chambers. We might have to, but let's try getting his enabled first. And then without him, this will tap the HDMI.
Okay.
Very slow to log in.
Oh, sorry.
This needs to share your screen.
So people in these can mirror their screen. If it's set to extend, it won't. So that's what people run into. So
I'm sharing
as you are, as long as you're here selecting, this is what dictates. Right, that's what says it, and then his, I just have to mirror the screen.
Who's good? And then you can check the audio.
That's gonna be that, so as long as you're.
Haven't changed it.
It's still active. So, should still be able to, yes, pick up as much as it can. It's just to work.
Okay, sorry. We go to this. Actually. Okay. That clock is set. Okay. That's exciting. All right. Oh. Let me look going to say that if they were.
Our kind Father, I want to thank the state for being here in this planning commission here in Orem. We are grateful for the country we live in, for the leaders of this land, and for living in Utah, and living in particular in Orem. Again, we're thankful for those who lead and help us. And Father, we pray during this meeting that Spirit will guide and direct us that we will make decisions that will be in the best long-term interest of all involved. And please enlighten and help us to understand and to see things from various perspectives. And we pray that there will be a spirit of cooperation and peace and work as we do that today. And that's the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Item 3.1 is approving a site plan. The site plan of Orem City Center located at 56 North State Street, C2 zone. The site is located on the current area where we're sitting here in the red box on site on this vicinity map. The current zoning here is C2. As you look at the area under question, the existing building that we're in right now will remain for the time being. Currently, this is a demolition plan that involves probably most guests here observed outside on their way in. Also will involve areas on the south side along Center Street and also the west side along State Street. Eventually, once phase 1 of this project is completed, which is the new city center building, then demolition will occur on this building. This is the proposed site plan. This describes that new building on the southwest corner of this block. And this building is removed up into the breezeway, it's just immediately adjacent to us. It will be restored with parking and a landscaping will be water wise and plus grass, but we'll be adding additional trees to compensate for lots of trees there as well. This is just a cleaner version of that site plan. And specifically landscaping plan. The building will consist of 3 stories, one of which is a basement, is an additional basement storage, so all 4 stories. The architecture of the building will be masonry brick, dark, and then light tone brick, which is a blend of 3 different colors. And this meets our building material requirements for the State Street corridor design requirements in the city code. This is the existing site plan. Parking overall, especially parking, as I said, the area will be replaced as parking. In the end, 830 stalls required by code for this entire city complex. And this final project required 889. Any questions? Our recommendation is that we approve the site plan.
Thank you. Any comments or questions?
I was gonna ask about the parking, so the 833 includes the library, the complex as well, so for the whole city enterprise.
Yeah, everything you see from the ball fields to State Street.
So the ball fields, parking requirements, I don't know how that's determined, but I know with many occasions, when our company's been looking at the salaries to find a place to park. So I don't know how they assess. And that, those needs are usually on different hours than what the city.
Yeah, that's an advantage, actually, to make best use of the parking is to have activities scheduled at non-peak parking demand time, so they can alternate. The standard is set in city code, it's was determined many decades ago, I'm assuming, that sometimes these parking standards were determined out of like ITE and National Transportation Engineers, Institute of Transportation Engineers. They have done parking analysis of this in the past. Many parking standards and city codes are derived from those type of analyses. Other cities will do their own studies and talk those. But they don't always perfectly fit the actual demand. And so we accommodate, and it's a balance. And sometimes, you know, the trade-off though of requiring too much parking is 99 days, 99% of the year it's statement, right? So we recognize that some days there may be inconvenience or spillover, but it's trying to strike a balance between wise land use and action, you know, overall.
how many parking stalls do we have right now before the new building is? I don't have an answer to that. Will be more or less than after the new building is.
And also the chairman, Wayne Gray, our project manager is here, if you have any questions for him as well. So to your question, there are 858 existing stalls and the proposal of the site plan is 851. So an increase of 46 stalls.
Does that include the parking that's to the immediate north of all the roads out there?
This includes all the way up to 400 East in the park and the senior center. So we're actually adding more stalls adjacent to City Hall than we had previously with this project.
My understanding was in your work session, there was a question in regard to the square footage of the existing building, which we are living now. That's at 45,000 square feet. New building, and I've got some numbers here for you. The new building will be at 65,039 square feet with a basement. That does not include the basement, but if you include the basement, which is 8,433 square feet, that puts the total square footage of 73%.
So the basement will not include the entire.
No, that would be just on the western.
Okay. So what's
And again, that square footage is just over 84.
Yeah, I was just curious, the breezeway, when during the demolition, how far are we gonna take the building down? Is the breezeway gonna be part of the library structure?
Yes, the breezeway will remain.
So it'll be the kind of new entrance.
So right
Not
here,
City Hall.
these doors right here where the breezeway starts and going north will stay. So everything south of the breezeway is going to be finished. And as Matt mentioned a few minutes ago, we'll build the new building, make sure that it's up and running. We'll move all the staff into that building once it's we've not occupied this building any longer. We'll take this building down. And then we'll build the parking lot as well as the campus area.
Or your man of experience and influence there, should we be excited at the prospect of this new building?
Should be actually excited spending here. Building as well as campus.
Tell us a few reasons why we should be excited, it's that beautiful.
I'll tell you what, not only, well, the building itself will be much more functional for city staff. It'll be much more functional for those that are coming to pay bills and give the city council meetings and those kinds of things. Much more accessible. The campus area, which will be right where we're standing right now, there will be some entities there that will enhance this area.
If I could add to that, Chairman, right now, as you look outside of our council chambers, it's not the most welcoming type of lobby. You will enter this building into a nice grand lobby that the council chambers can directly operate to the right, and it will be a much more welcoming environment. Lighter colors, more bright, better working technology than currently have, things of that nature.
Will lighter people work here as well?
I can only answer for the rest.
Yes.
Great.
Any further questions?
Good. Thank you. Okay. You want to?
Make a motion. I make a motion for the positive. Move the motion that we have the planning commission approve the site plan for Orem City Center located at 56 North State Street.
Second.
Aye.
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 That's enough. Okay, 3.2.
Point two,
This is a rezone request, it's a public hearing. Request is to amend section 2253A. And the zone map, the city of Orem, by changing the zone approximately 4.86 acres of the C3 zone, the C2 zone, located generally at 877 North State Street. This property is vacant, and it's been vacant as long as memory serves. The area in question is outlined in red. This is currently C3 zone. The request is to change that to C2. You can see that the zoning boundary does not follow current property lines. And has some awkward angles involved, which may hamper future development requests as we typically don't allow uses to stick in zones or property lines fit in zones. With rezones, we require a concept plan to give an idea for the planning commission what could be built or what they can be built on the site. Our understanding is this is a two-phase project. Possibly phase one would be multiple phases of itself. Phase one would be along State Street, consisting 3 drive-through oriented uses, one in car wash, and one in a small food or soda shop, and one also another general fast food restaurant. The access for that site generally would come in at the north end of the property, lining up with the other driveway access to the east. Per our requirement, that driveway then intersects with the west side access point on 400 West Street. The site design originally has been modified to accommodate that alignment. Phase 2 of that proposal would include a hotel and a retail site. The parking you see on this concept plan would generally be required parking for whether proposed. This is just an illustration of the current zoning map overlay with property lines. See the property lines are not good line. And this would design be if the city council approves this request. This is the current condition of the property. We have a recommendation to the planning commission for a positive recommendation of the city council. And then zoning that accordingly as per the notice. The planning commission has any comments concerning that, so I can answer questions or dive deeper into any points we touched on in the work session.
Is the applicant here? Do you want to come forward and tell us more about the project?
Hey, how's it going? My name is Matt Nielsen. I'm with Evergreen Development. I run our Utah office here locally. I'm based in Kaysville. And yeah, I think it was explained really well. This is obviously just a concept plan, so we'll dial this in and have it brought back. But this is the overall concept plan of what we envision for the project. And we're really excited. And like it was mentioned, the current zoning on the property is somewhat limiting based on how it jogs and where it goes. And this zoning brings it to conform with the other zoning right around it, next door to it, in front of the automobile. So we're excited about this project. It took a lot to get this project under contract, as you know, it's going to make it a lot for as far as we know, and getting the seller to agree in terms and timing was a struggle, and we got there. We're really excited about moving this forward.
Do we have any questions for that?
Go for it.
My understanding that you're proposing a new plot now.
Yes, correct.
Great. Do you have an idea how this like?
Yeah, the new plat map. Yeah, and ideally we'll have 3 separate lots along State Street in the front, and then 1, maybe 2 lots in the back, depending on which users we actually select for the back lots. But 3 lots on the front, where those, the quick serve, the smaller drive-throughs, and the car wash, and then 1, possibly 2 on the back.
And you said we can show that format, Steve. And as an applicant, you know that there will be a median.
Yes, correct, yeah, yeah, we're like that.
Yes, as the, we're pulling this up, how far down the road are you on those? These three type of structures up front and back, what's kind of, what do you foresee it happening imminently and what's down there?
Yeah, so we are pretty far along with the car wash user and with the smaller drive-through user in the middle. We are in discussions with multiple users for the back portion for the larger 4 acres. That is a little bit in flux right now, and as you know, it's a larger 4 acre piece, and so it takes a little bit more time to try to dial in what exactly we're gonna do back there. We have multiple offers back there that we're reviewing and trying to figure out. So the front pad will go first, as you can imagine. So we're fairly far along with all of our users along the front and the back portions of the behind, which is why this plat map shows us dividing into 2 phases where we're coming in, doing 1 phase of the plat map and then finalizing the 2nd phase once we have that map sort of locked in.
And what are all the potential uses, would the users of the back 4 acres, would it matter whether they were zoned C2 or C3?
Yeah, it does. The C2 zone has more flexibility for us with setbacks, with height requirements, with users, with type of uses. I mean, it's fairly important for it. Not sorry, it's critical for us to get that C2 zone with the current users we're talking to.
And that will change the negotiation with the buyer. Okay. Yeah, that's the problem.
What would be some examples of things that wouldn't fit C2, that wouldn't fit C3, that would fit C2? Right? You don't have to tell me any specifics. I know your negotiations. I'm not asking if this world.
Yeah, for sure. For example, the current site plan we have shows a hotel. Hotel is allowed in C2 and in C3, but C2 gives you more flexibility in terms of your setback requirements, in terms of parking, I believe, in terms of height requirements, and a number of other issues. I know the retail users also have a few stipulations in there with the retail users that we can go there. I don't have the city code to hold up, so I'm not exactly sure on the retail use, but the hotel is a key component of that in terms of setback requirements and where you can actually have that located.
See, this is the one, and then we only have the car wash future location.
Yeah, correct. We're trying to facilitate a concurrent flows with our car wash user for the frontage right there. In order to make the pricing work at the landlord, we had to do a concurrent flows to one of our users. And so to facilitate that concurrent flows with our purchase, we're going to sell that car wash pad concurrently to a car wash user and then develop the rest and hold on to the rest of the ground leases and a number of other structures. But that's why we're pushing forward with this first plat map to facilitate with our time with the property.
Oh, my understanding is been sitting for a while.
That is the what?
The land has been sitting for a while.
Yes, correct. Yeah,
Yeah, about 50 years old. The sense of urgency now is one.
It's the seller. I mean, they put the site on the market. We originally submitted an offer to buy this, I think, 2 years ago or so. It took about 9 months to get it tied up, working with the current seller. And then once we have it tied up, they have a set time frame according to the PSA, and they have a willing pledge off of that set time frame. And so I asked them the same question. I said, you've owned this for a long time. We try to get some extensions from them to go in and say, hey, you know, we'd love to extend this out, give us more flexibility, and they said, no, we need to do this. So we asked that same question to them.
So I know it's kind of hard to see from this particular map and looking at the C2, C3, but is that lot one fully in C2 or is that back corner in
It
C?
splits it, yeah.
Yeah, so the diagonal comes through.
It would kind of come in. Yeah, I don't know if you can see where his cursor is, but it drops his cursor down and kind of come in and angle roughly around right there.
And would the other lots kind of just go straight up? Is the plan to make the other lots go straight
From that back
north?
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, give or take, it'll continue straight north. Yeah. maybe not a straight line, but fairly straight to continue to create those three separate parcels like that.
Well, it's, I think, and I don't think we should. I understand your sense of urgency at the time, but that's not on the city, that's the thing, so. Sure. So for us, I'd like to see the block map for all users on Sixth Street, maybe. We're not gonna say deny or approve the motion, right? Once we see the block maps for the first three stops on Sixth Street, then we can make a decision, because the switching C3 to C2 gives too much leniency, especially around the neighborhood, and probably the front of the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So once you see those three, you demand. But
Well, I was just gonna say, we need to have a public hearing. Let's see, but we need to have a public hearing and then we can come back and we can talk. Is there any more specific questions for the applicant at this stage?
Are you open to other options other than what you proposed here? And, you know, if we can come back and say, hey, from a planning commission perspective, this works, this doesn't work. You know, how hamstrung are you or?
Yeah, of course, I mean, we're working closely with city staff to figure out how this is gonna work, and our hands are tied by what our tenants want and desire, right? I mean, what we're trying to pull off something that works for the city, for residents, and for us, and for our tenants, and trying to juggle all four of those balls at the same time. We are concurrently going through with this first plat and then coming through with the second plat to subdivide those other parcels out. And then, of course, this is dealing primarily with the rezone.
So at your public meeting, how were the neighbors respond to rezoning the back portion of the slot?
Yeah, the neighborhood meeting was great. We had a lot of participation in that meeting, which was great. We did make adjustments to our site plan based on resident feedback. We used to have the car wash to the north next to the apartments. The feedback from the residents is they wanted that further away from the residential, so we dropped the car wash further away from that. We also had a retail building where the current hotel building was, and there was some concern about loading docks and noise for the residents that live in the area. So we changed the direction of the loading docks, so the loading docks wouldn't be where closer to the homes, but if you were buffered with the hotel and with the retail used to create some loading docks back there. And then the other issue was traffic concerns, which traffic will be a concern no matter what gets developed here from residents. So we were trying to mitigate that by showing adequate parking, by showing the drive access in the middle, by showing how we were laying out the site to really address those concerns.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, so we'll move on to, thank you, we'll move on to the public hearing. So I'm going to open it for the public hearing. Please, if you're ready to say this recorded, say your name and 3 minutes. So I'll open the public hearing. And I will close the public hearing, please, no one has come forward, so I'll move on to discussion.
yeah, I would like to see the 3 blocks push before we mention the zone.
Well, I don't have any problem rezoning that plot, the one that we can rezone that to C2. It's the rest of it's the unknown about what's happening in the rest of them.
It's the concept plan that could change at any time of this approved. I think we should put it in logical steps. Replot the whole thing, show us the lines, we'll approve it, then we'll calculate the zone for each site. And that just. I mean, that's my condition.
Well, I mean, I think another way to do that would, if you became like a PRD, a commercial redevelopment zone, right? And so where we could see a plot and all the buildings and you kind of, we'd be able to work with a developer and say, okay, here, do you know that either a hotel or retail, there's just so much uncertainty, I agree. There's so much uncertainty. I don't feel comfortable doing anything other than that one piece that's
Well, we can't do that because it's not going to pass. He's asking for the whole thing.
right, and I'm not comfortable with that at all.
No, I was gonna chime in very quickly with my concern.
I just don't want to hold up the deal. If this is a deal breaker, I don't mind. Hey,
Hey, Steve, would, I mean, if they were gonna continue this, wouldn't they, I mean, and they wanted to see the plats approved? Even if the plats were approved, the rezone would have to go through additionally for them to begin to build. And get approval for a site plan, correct?
So I'm not sure I understood your question.
So, from what I'm understanding is they want to see the, Stacy's comment, they wanted to have the plats come forward and to be able to see those lines. But then the rezone request would have to be amended to reflect that. But also that, for his point, try to meet some urgency on his end. If we approve plats, that doesn't also, we have to also approve the zone so that he can move forward with the car wash person. Is that right?
I don't think it's clear. I don't think, well, just to be clear, sense of urgency will go respect all the people, just if it's not a sense of urgency, that's between them and the file, that's not on us and the else. Sense of urgency will not make any difference to them. I've lost these quite a few times, lost these quite a few times, that's not, nobody cares about my sense of urgency. What matters is what board's the city and the citizen and the. Once we get that resolved, then we can go from there. And we specific for 50 years, if the solar grid wants to go fast, he will have solar for less to do to them.
I guess I was just going to point out that if you wait for the plan amendment, the rezone has to go through also for the piece of land.
Yeah, because I think what they're suggesting, the planning commission is suggesting, if I understand, that it would help them determine.
Exactly.
They knew where the proposed boundaries were of all the lots. That might help them in their decision making in terms of, yeah, we think C2 is okay here. Maybe it's okay for all of them, maybe it's only okay for some of them.
Correct.
So, I mean, it doesn't have to go that way, but I think they're just suggesting that if they had that in mind, they're safe for ways.
Let me ask the question, so you had a public meeting, that is the neighborhood meeting. And I don't see any people objecting to what was requested there. In the meeting, what were the concerns that were expressed and were those concerns addressed to the satisfaction? We were delaying this because of uncertainty. But
Every planning commission is a little bit different. Some don't want me to come back up. Some allow, so thank you for letting me come back up. Yeah, main concerns were traffic in the area, and the residents are concerned about traffic on State Street and how much it backs up from the light. We have a traffic study that's been done. We haven't seen the final results yet, but the traffic study is done, and the median obviously is contemplated going in, which will help. It was noise and traffic were the primary concerns from the residents, which we've been trying to address by moving that car wash down. And in terms of the plat, we are working through to design that second plat that will come back in to show you the 3 different birds, 1, 2, 3, 4 different lots to be shown. So we're hoping to present that right behind this first plat that's coming out to show just the car wash user. So I gave your point right. I mean, for me, the city's not concerned about urgency. That's not between you, that doesn't involve you or frankly anyone else. It's between us and the seller. So we're trying to push through the first plat amendments so that we can get our ducks in a row to do our closing. But the residents' concerns weren't about necessarily the use, they were concerns about traffic, which we did talk through with the residents that anything that gets developed here ever will be an increase in traffic, whether it's us or somebody else. That's a concern that is shared across the board there.
Traffic's not going to impact the decision. Right.
So heights of buildings and distances from the buildings to the streets, and those were concerns.
No, and we even brought up to the residents the idea of the hotel, and they enjoyed the idea of the hotel just because it provides a buffer between the retail and the hotel use.
But that's based off your conceptual,
Conceptual.
not what actually gets put in place, which could change when we get.
Correct. We have multiple offers from hotel users, as well as others.
And that's all interesting.
Yeah.
So the consumption zone is not selling.
Sure.
I have another question, it's not necessarily directly for you, but what is the zoning across the street behind the sign? Is that C2 or C3?
You mean to the west, right?
Yes,
It's T3.
C3.
Correct.
So C3 is basically strip mall-ish as opposed to, That's kind of the difference. And,
C3 has a hotel as well.
yeah,
Not as,
scale,
it's not as tall.
And what, we're asking for the entire lot to be rezoned C2, and it'll match what's across, it's not across the street, what's fronts 800 north right there along State Street 800 north, so it'll all be one continuous zone instead of being divided up into multiple zones. But to your point, as the zone currently goes and jogs, we can't develop anything on any of the lots that we create because they all bypass and don't follow any type of parcel line. I mean, they just, I'm not sure what the backstory was of why they jog the way they do, but nothing can be developed because you can't.
I think historically, it's State Street bridging on the lots, so they've gotten smaller over time.
Gotcha.
and again, this is not a question for you, but it seems like all along State Street, it's C2, pretty much all the way along. How far does C2 go over in other areas in Orem? I'd be very curious to see that. I assume, for example, between Orem Boulevard and State Street, that's all, probably all C2, people would guess, but I don't know. Like if the question for me is the part on the west of that, you know, I get that the part on State Street needs to be C2. I'm not convinced the part on the west of it needs to be C2, but I'd be curious what else you see that further away from State Street that is C2. How can we get that information?
A map, you can pull up a map, a zoning map, and you can see the area on State Street generally.
While Matt's doing that, I have it pulled up, but obviously I can't connect. There are two C3 zones within the city of Orem. The one on 800 north, and the other one is located. Yeah, the Smith's complex right across the street where the Shopco and Smith's is located. So
And everything else is C2?
that is correct. It's a commercial zone. There's also other professional office zones. There's a C1 zone. But the majority of commercial in the city is zone C2. So the C3 zone continues from this project all the way down 800 north and across the Technicolor Hospital frontage and ends at 8th west. Once you cross 8th west, the courtyard apartments there that are next to the Wingfoot development are actually zone C2. I'm not sure why or how, but that was a long time ago as well. That's weird.
One zone map is not popular.
Yeah, it's in your that.
Right.
I think that's the trail map.
There you go.
So really, there's just two C2 zones and everything, or C3 zones and everything else is C2.
Or is there a few select C1 locations, and those are,
Like University Mall and University Park.
the C1 is at the mouth of Coble Canyon, where there's apartments along Palisade Park. I'm not apartments, sorry, like the dental offices, some of those professional offices. Right at the top of the hill before you go down. Yeah, that's a C1 right there in that location. I can see, it is also three is taper. Still,
I guess so my question is, how big of a deal is it? The question, I don't know the answer.
I think it's a valid question. I think we should look at it and see how it works. And I guess maybe I'm gonna try and re-ask this question to you. So if we were to table this to the preliminary plat first, so we knew where the land was and then rezone that plot?
You know, I think the question is, because what they've shown us is they're just subdividing that one car wash lot. I think you were maybe hoping for a more full comprehensive subdivision plan, which I don't know that they're ready, maybe you can address whether they're ready to do that yet or not.
Yeah, we've been preparing it, but we don't have to wait it yet, but it will show 3 lots along State Street and then 1, maybe 2 lots, but most likely 99% just 1 lot.
so. Wow, that doesn't look very good up there. That's the Smith's location. So a little bit of background on the C3, and Steve can probably help me out with this. So along 8th North, that's your Pinehurst Plaza. It's your That is C3, so those buildings are, C3 has a height limit of 35 feet. Unless the building is 150 feet away from the residential homes. That strip of property is specifically backed on the single family lots. So it made a lot of sense there. If they're 150 feet away, they can go up to 48 feet in height, which is what you can do in a C2 zone. This gentleman in particular, his property doesn't necessarily border single family homes, it doesn't border apartments, so. You know, it is residential as well, but that's kind of part of the reasoning with the C3 is to keep those heights down in those buildings a little bit further away.
I'm not comfortable keeping such an open change without knowing plans and lots.
Is there specific concerns you have between the C3 and the C2? I'm just curious.
Restriction setbacks.
Yeah.
You know, it is largely residential in the area, and it is a horrible traffic jam in that area. All you have to do is try to State Street, watch it back up, I literally waited 3 lines to get through from the state.
Absolutely. But again, the argument goes back to anything that goes there, right, can increase traffic, whether it's.
Right, but if we put
Ours.
bigger, taller buildings, then we're gonna get even more traffic.
Sure.
So it just compounds the bigger the facility that goes into space.
And to, oh, sorry. I didn't hear.
Oh, you know, it's just that much more added to the neighborhood and residents.
Sure. And to that argument, what we were saying, one of the reasons we thought this is a good candidate for that C2 zone is because it doesn't back up to any of those residential homes. I mean, I believe, does that C2 right across from there's that apartments, does that go right up against the homes? Whereas this, we're not right up against any residential homes, we're keeping corner from the residential homes.
So we're used to cut through the street. A lot of residential stuff goes through that way.
I use it every time I go south.
Yeah.
Make that back road to the home.
Yeah, and I can talk out of both sides of my mouth here. Because I think, well, you know, we should put something in retail, but how many retail things do we put in Orem that go out of business and become an eyesore? A hotel, you got one big thing there. And it's, I don't see a lot of hotels going out of business, so.
And I think hotels are needed. We need hotels.
Yeah.
You're right too.
I will say that we do not have any major retail boxes to go in that current boxes, hotel users and other type of lower density users like that, like a hotel user, like something like that. We don't have a box user to fill that 20,000 square foot box. So our intent is to have it be hotels, to have it be some type of use along those lines.
And you said you have a lot of interest in hotels.
Correct. We have 4 offers at this point.
Now, you also referenced the traffic study that is not completed.
Correct. It's done. We just haven't seen the final results yet. The main part of our traffic study that we were looking at was to see if a right turn lane needed to be done to pull into the site, to see if it was even feasible based on how close in proximity those other lanes are to the neighboring property and how much frontage you have to take and distance to slow and slope of the adjoining property. And that was one of our main concerns, the traffic studies and that, which from what I've been told from the traffic engineer is that it shows that it's not warranted, but I haven't seen the study yet, but that's what I've been told.
So what you're suggesting to us is this piece of property is something developed over these many years. What you're proposing would be an optimum use for that property in its development. That is considering the concerns, the traffic concerns, the noise concerns and so on. You've gone into this with the idea that this would be a good thing to put at this site.
Yes, correct.
It's a business deal. Are your 4 offers contingent on the zone change?
2 of, yes, they are.
Okay, makes sense. Because they want to go more height.
Right, they want flexibility, and frankly, 2 hotels don't fit back there. If you're gonna change out a retail building into another hotel, 2 hotels don't fit in the C2 zone based on setbacks.
So if you've had that discussion with the hotel, and it's, how many rooms are being considered in these hotels?
I honestly don't know the answer to that, but if I did, I would tell you. I'm not sure what their footprint goes or how many hotels they.
Yeah, I just have to hotel on, so for the record, we love see hotel, we love see story like that. This is not against the project, this is specifically the zone use makes the neighborhood, and it's not necessarily traffic, and I think we want to like that. Turning lane on State Street is a farther thing we can accomplish with that, having gone through this multiple times, so that's not gonna happen. But, based on that, we want stuff to go in there, sure, I understand it. Don't take my comment about the urgency as we run here about the money. That it's the fact is, I believe the owner had a little bit of urgency and patience, given that he would get something better than nothing, right? And from there, I think we want to continue this. I want to continue seeing the three paths on State Street with the hotel and the retail on the back, just in consideration, not necessarily the traffic, but preserving the neighborhood and not having restriction. That's all. And if the hotels are seriously giving contingency on changing the zone, that means it matters.
Sure. And I'm not familiar with the private development manager that is walking through the process with city staff. So I believe we can't do anything with the zone until plat map. So are you saying you want the plat map done, recorded before we come back and apply for the rezone, or you just want to see the plat map?
That's exactly the first option. Once you apply, record, and we will help you moving that fast. This is not going to be something that needs to be held up. Present it as soon as you can. I think that's what we outlined. We want to see that, and then from there we'll speed.
Do we know timing with the staffing here? I mean, my understanding is to get the second plat, I mean, we're 4 to 5 months out to get a plat actually recorded.
It doesn't have to be recorded, approved. I think we do a time of approval. Steve, how long does it take from approving to recording?
Well, I think what we're looking at is probably maybe having a preliminary plat approved, which is not final plat, preliminary plat's not recorded. So that's kind of more of a almost conceptual, here's what we're planning on doing, here's how we're planning on subdividing that. The final plat is what actually is getting recorded.
Will that be much different than what you provided us already?
No, it'll be 3 lots along the front, and I'm very confident it'll be 1 lot in the back instead of 2.
And the one lot allows for a hotel and a retail back, 2 different business purposes.
So,
You'll have the hotel
correct.
in the north side and then.
Or it's very possible, the most likely option would be 2 hotels or a hotel and another non-retail use that is conducive to a hotel, something along those lines. The issue is you can't, given the setbacks of C2s or C3 zone, you can't fit 2 hotels back there or something else because you'd only be able to fit one hotel without an individual resident.
So C2 would allow them to do that.
C2 would allow for you to fit 2 hotels back there versus 1, or C3 would not allow you to do 2 hotels. And a lot of these concepts, these hotel groups go with 2s, right? And we have 2 flags that are different flags, but owned by the same group where they put 2 different locations. One's, $170 a night, one's $150 a year, whatever it is.
I guess, I've stayed in a lot of hotels over the years, too many. Not as many as this kind of way. But some hotel chains are more palatable than others, I would suggest. And you don't want to disclose, I suppose, who you're considering, but.
We have a few different users and they're very clear not to disclose. We haven't only decided them. I did just get a text message from my development manager who's listening that said it could be about 115 rooms each hotel.
Thanks so much, by the way, for the transparency and actually not holding the cost.
Yeah, of course.
We want to work with you on what needs to be done. I see that.
So Hazen, you're saying we should continue this until we just get a little more clarity on what. Yeah, I'm okay either way. I there's a part of me that says, I don't think it really matters if we could approve it, but I don't mind seeing a little more detail either. It can't hurt. Right?
Well, and I think if I'm hearing what our conversations have been over, I think it's not the 3 lot plots along State Street and cleaning that up for zoning that we are concerned about. It's more, what are we approving for the back half of the property?
Well, it must be like, really what your desire, you pretty well know. Two hotels with 150 rooms each.
Correct. The difference would be 115 or 250.
Or what?
Or 250. So C2 would be 115 and something small, and C2 would have
Is,
200.
is there a way to just approve for that one car wash lot to approve that entire lot being just C2 and then having the rest of it come back? Because what I'm trying to avoid is being delayed another 2 months, right?
We understand, and that's what I'm trying to.
These are what I answer that. Our attorney has to tell us what we can do in this matter.
Yeah, I think you could do that. I think if you, for example, if you wanted to do this, you could make a positive recommendation as to the area of the lot line that he's shown. And then, basically, either negative recommendation for the remainder, if the applicant wants to go forward to city council and get a decision one way or the other, right now, and not have to wait. Or if the applicant is willing to continue the remainder other than the lot one while we work out this preliminary plat, then that would be an option as well. But I do think that the applicant should have really a pretty strong say in whether we continue this or not, because, you know, they filed the application and if they want to just go forward to city council and get it up or down, then I think that's probably their right, so.
Yeah, just to recap, from my opinion, I think if we can just get that car wash rezoned to C2 and then come back later, that's one thing. If it was gonna be an all-out rejection, I would say let's ask for a continuance and then we can come back in with our plat and show everything else. So those are the 2 options that we can look at, other than just an out rejection and then we have to.
So it sounds like you would be okay with the planning commission forwarding a positive recommendation as to lot one, essentially continuing the application as to the rest of the lot.
Yeah, because then we'll come back in with our separate second plat to plat how everything back.
I second that, and make what you stated as a motion.
Well, which way? Because he said something both ways. So we either have to say we're sending a positive recommendation that lot one or the proposed area of lot one be changed to be two.
Most of it is.
Right, we're just cleaning it up basically. And then the rest of it, we would either need to provide a negative recommendation or continue it until such time as we know what the rest of the plot is.
Does that work for you? Get that car wash moving forward faster?
The car wash is a priority to get that moving forward faster, so if we can get the car wash, that lot one rezoned to C2, so we can move forward with our car wash. And then come back in with the flat map and everything else to show the remainder of it. Yeah, that's how I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, but basically we're trying to help you along on this.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
With the rest of it, leave that so we can have more discussion about.
I make a motion that the planning commission forward a positive recommendation that the city council will amend section 22-5-3A. And the zoning map of the city of Orem by changing the zone of approximately lot one
Dedicated to car wash.
from the C3 zone to the C2 zone located generally at 7 North State Street.
And continuing the application as to the rest of the parcel.
The applications to the rest of the property.
Is that clear?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Gary?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Okay, item 3.3.
Item 3.3 is a council member to the zoning code. So amend our appendix A of Orem City Code by enacting the standard land use code 6266. Pediatric palliative care facility. Enacted 22-6-9. And pediatric palliative care facility in chapter 22 of the Orem City Code. This text amendment relates to a specific property in the city located at 370 west, 500 north. This facility has been under consideration for many adaptive reuse business models for this existing property, which has been built since I believe it's 1952. It has 26 beds and was originally zoned and approved for 26 beds for facility for ambulatory elderly services. This proposed change amends the zoning code that allowed R 7.5 zone to allow this new conditional use, again called pediatric palliative care facility, and would allow that this current 26 bed facility would then be allowed for basically essentially a children's facility with children with medical challenges. The facility would provide overnight respite, transitional care from hospital to home, and care at times of increased medical need. It also would serve as a facility for patients who are living at the home to receive outpatient treatments. For applicant families and children who need these services have to leave Utah County to receive this kind of care. And currently, there are 5 of these facilities in the country. It was explained earlier also that palliative care could also include some limited outpatient services for therapy or other services for children as they come in and out throughout the day. It's also an opportunity for the county's parents to receive respite care for themselves as a transfer care of their children. The standard land use code be amended as follows, adding this new line. 6266 is just a number and then a list under a category of 6200. 1600 is typically medical type uses. They would be allowed, as I said, as conditional use with that asterisk there. I'll explain that in a moment. In the R 7.5 zone. The asterisk refers to a proposed ordinance amendment. The proposed ordinance amendment, then by default, any structure or property would be allowed to create one of these care facilities in a 7.5 zone. So to prevent that from happening, we have proposed in this ordinance that will define that essentially these facilities have to exist in existing buildings that were originally intended for operated as a residential care facility or residential health care facility for elderly. And also includes no significant modifications for exterior appearance of existing buildings. There's other additional rules, again, trying to regulate just very limitedly how many places go within that zone. I would ask Steve, though, if we have a sense of that's just 1 or 10 or 7.5 zone.
How many of these type of facilities are, so you're asking?
Well, I would say we anticipate this will just apply to pretty much this property, correct?
Yeah, I mean, there's most likely, because number one, I'm not sure that there's going to be a lot of demand for multiple type facilities, and maybe I'm wrong about that, but ultimately, there's only a handful of properties where this particular could go, because as Matt mentioned, it's only applicable or can only go in facilities that have been previously approved as a residential facility for elderly persons, has been operated for that. So it's not your typical house. You know, it's only these specific kinds of buildings that have already been constructed in the city, and there's a limited number of them, and most of them have been built in the R8 zone. There, I think there might be, 2 or 3 or 4 others in the R75 zone. They're just not there.
The current site, substantial modifications will happen to the site of this new use, and if this zoning ordinance is approved. So with that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission board a positive recommendation to the city council to amend that is a Orem City Code and adopt this associated ordinance.
Yeah, is the applicant here? Julie, come forward.
Thank you. I actually live in Orem, but I'm also the founder and executive director of Grace Place.
which is the Pediatric Palliative Care Organization. Thanks for you guys and all your service. Mr. Carpenter came to our neighborhood meeting. We had great notice and sent many a stamped letter to neighbors, and he was the one who showed up. We did hear from 3 other neighbors. We also tried to make it easy to get feedback, so we did a QR code and a link just to a compliant form online that they could give us feedback about. And we really heard from 2 other people asking maybe if we could help them with their rezoning of their apartment that they wanted. Or another one was saying why kids and why would they need to go somewhere? Why can't mom and dad do it? So the neighborhood has been pretty receptive. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Palliative care is a type of specialized medical care for people who live with lifelong illness. So we all drive home and get in a Ford accident. We're going to power through for 6-9 months, and we're going to get better, and life is going to return to normal. Well, for people with lifelong illness, particularly children, that normal or that better or that less strain or stress doesn't happen. And even though we live joyfully and we're going to change our kids and we love our lives, it's really important to give an additional type of medical care to these families to increase their resiliency, to prevent burnout, to attend to the unique medical needs of these kids. And so that's what palliative care is. It sometimes isn't connected to end of life care, which it's not. It can start at time of diagnosis. So Grace Place is here to help families live well who live with serious pediatric illness, and then to help their family members have some supportive services too, do sibling events, parent events, that sort of thing. We've been operating out of our Orem office since 2017, doing home-based palliative care. So we go into their home, and there's such a need for a facility for families to be able to have somewhere else that their individual can go to receive care, as well as some unique therapies. And for us, somewhere to hold our events, we rent the park, we do fire station, conference room. It'd be great to have a home base for us. So that's kind of, we're ready for that next step, and this facility is really great for that.
Does this facility really meet your expectations?
Beautifully. It's a little old.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
old too.
Yeah, me too.
Older is better.
Yeah. Sure. No, it's a great facility. It's got a lot of square feet. The property is nice. We're super happy with it. Yeah.
So how many employees will you have working in that facility?
It's hard to say. We will continue our home-based program, and right now we have about 20 employees, mostly part-time, mostly students who do one-on-one care for these individuals, and then also some medical staff. So I would imagine working solely at this facility, 10, 15, maybe, maybe 5 to 10. It's something like was mentioned, there's 4 other homes like this in the country. So I mean, I would not be shocked if we hosted a palliative care conference here in a couple of years. And so we'll have to see where it goes. The need is great. I agree. I don't think there'll be a bunch of us wanting to knock down your door saying, let's do more. But I would imagine 5 to 10 employees. And our home program will continue to grow, and this will be our home base for that.
I mean, where else in the country? Are these in large metropolitan areas, or are they in smaller places like Utah County?
Yeah, so one in San Francisco, one in Phoenix, and both of those are big hospice areas, right? And then one in New York and one in Minnesota. And the largest of theirs is 6 beds. So we're quite a little bit different. We have kind of a more comprehensive business plan that we give to our families, where they're just simply respite overnight stays.
So how dependent are these patients? In other words, what are their limitations? What are their capabilities?
Are they mental or physical or some of both?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for your interest in our kiddos. Our first patient with Grace Place ever is a 14-year-old gal who's a Utah County resident with Down syndrome. And then also when she was 3, she was diagnosed with autism. And then further on, some heart issues and some kidney issues. Her parents say Down syndrome wasn't so bad, but the autism, man, it made it really difficult. They had not had a night away as a couple in 14 years, because grandma and grandpa can watch the other kids. But these kids are challenging and they need more than what extended family and natural supports can give. So that's an example. We anticipate having 4 of our rooms be kind of the skilled nursing level, or maybe they are technology dependent for breathing, for feeding, that sort of thing. But the other 12 rooms would be a lower level and not be that skilled nursing level. That's kind of what we anticipate. Currently of our individuals that we serve, probably 60%, they walk, they talk, but have medical challenges that change their everyday life enough that it's really burdensome for their families to maintain. Yeah.
So with the notion that these patients will be there on a long-term basis, you have growth possibilities at this complex or not? Are you maxed out right from the time you move in?
No, I think there is some possibility. There's that back building that's kind of rectangular that was built after the first one that we envision to be more outpatient therapy and administrative building. We could do something there. And not to misunderstand the idea of a residential facility, we don't anticipate anyone living here. It would be short-term respite stays, is what we anticipate. There might be a need that comes up that we would be happy to meet, but we'll see. There's actually another nonprofit that started a couple of years ago. This would like to do one up in Davis County. It's not very well reimbursed by insurance, and so people kind of shy away from, can we even make this business to go? It's why we did nonprofit as our business model.
And where do these kids come from? Are they from right here locally? Most of your patients?
Yeah, so we serve all of Utah. We have a kiddo in St. George and we have a kiddo up towards Idaho. 80% of our patients are in Utah County. It's kind of our home base. It's where we started. Actually, the funds for this facility and for the renovation and equipping come from a Utah County Commissioner's grant, which so Utah County has a high investment and interest level in it. And so we should be able to do this and have it open entirely debt-free, which would be fantastic. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you very much. Awesome, thanks.
Hey, this is a public hearing, so I will open to the public hearing. And I will close the public hearing. Great. Motion?
I'm just gonna make, I want to hear a couple thoughts from Mike, and then I want to make a couple comments.
I think it's an amazing worthwhile thing. Obviously, this parents go through a lot, so having the ability someplace to turn for help, just to take some hard on yourselves, thinking about this thing. And you know, it's a challenge to have family, you know, require tremendous service. I think it's going to be a tremendous asset to the city.
What was your experience in having a tour of the facility?
I think, well, it looks like it was designed for its use originally, and so it's just going to be a great fit. Some of the renovations that we do will just make it a modern day. So I was impressed. Yeah. So I got a solo tour, so I got all the time.
I've been in the facility, by the way, visiting someone who had surgery and then they were a short-term care. I guess my biggest concern is really business risk. Worrying that, are you gonna have enough business to keep the doors open? Like, that's my biggest concern, because I think it's a wonderful thing and we gotta prove it. And, but I just, given the fact that it probably never will be fully reimbursed by any insurance companies, I just hope there's enough demand such that 10 years from now, we're not redoing it, but I don't think that gets in the way of us
I was
proving anything.
still wasn't anything for the person.
No.
Yeah.
Just one comment on that, this does not eliminate the other approved uses for the zone, so. There's the assisted living facility uses already allowed for that site.
Well, I make a motion with the planning commission forward a positive recommendation to the city council to amend Appendix A of the Orem City Code by enacting standard land use code 6266 pediatric palliative care facility and to enact 22-6-9N pediatric palliative care facility in chapter 22 of the Orem City Code.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Will be a great opportunity. Item 4.1, meeting minutes. I make the motion, we approve the meeting minutes for March 1st, 2023.
Meeting of,
March 1st.
I second those motions.
Yes, second vote.
Aye.
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 I just realized that Brian did last item on the agenda. Do you have anything, Brian?
I think I spoke enough in work sessions. Nothing's of it.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
Oh, I move we adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Surround that as well.
I think it was a good idea.